evening. Hi, and welcome to Noble TV. We are the Chicago chapter of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. I'm John Franklin, and thanks for tuning in. Today we'll be talking with Jonathan Lewin, the Deputy Chief of the Technology and Records Group for the Chicago Police Department. Mr. Lewin is considered an expert in technology throughout Illinois and the country. But before we get started, let me remind you that you can watch us here at CAN TV 21 or by way of the internet at cantv.org/hotline. Now, this is a live interactive show, and you are welcome to call in at 312-738-1060. We'll be taking some calls shortly. Thank you, Deputy Chief Lewin, for coming over. Pleasure to have you here on this chilly Chicago evening.
It's cool out.
Please tell our viewers about your career in law enforcement. Now, you've been on about 25 years now, right?
25 years, born and raised in Chicago. I'm lucky because I got to combine my love for technology with a passion for policing. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a Chicago police officer. Grew up in Chicago, went to public schools my whole life, Whitney Young High School.
Which is a place of another deputy chief we have on the job, Dane Alexander. He was
Yes.
a classmate.
And my current boss, Barb West.
And my wife is also an alumni of Whitney Young High School, one of the best high schools in the country.
Great school. And so, right now I oversee technology. I started out as a police officer in Rogers Park, 24th District. Have worked in many very busy districts in the city, South Side, West Side. Worked in training for a while, and then have spent over 10 years about the last 10 years in technology.
I was going to say, it's been quite a while, at least
It has.
that I knew of.
Yeah.
Now, what are the units that fall under your current command?
So I have the Information Services Division. I have records. I have the alternate response section, which is telephone reports taken over the phone, police reports taken over the telephone, and evidence and recovered property.
Oh, evidence recovered property too, okay. Given the recent events facing law enforcement agencies in this country today, I think it's safe to say that technology plays an extremely important role in rebuilding trust in the communities we serve. Now, let's talk about dash cams and in-car cameras. How many squads in the CPD currently have the dash cams?
Approximately 800.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Now, are they in all districts or just most of them? Or
They're in all districts, and that program actually started way back in 2003.
Okay.
It started with just 30 cameras, and then it expanded, and now most marked patrol vehicles are equipped with in-car cameras.
Oh, okay. And now, how much training are officers provided in the use of the dash cam?
It's built into the recruit training curriculum, so when they're onboarded, they go through it at the academy. There's also e-learning training, so there's essentially it's computer-based training that the officers actually are required to go through. The supervisors also go through training, so if you get promoted to sergeant, you will also get an instruction module on in-car cameras. It's really integrated into the recruit training and promotional training classes.
Oh, okay. And it's working out pretty good now.
It is. It's been in place for so long that it's a pretty stable platform. As you know, many other departments around the country have in-car cameras. LA has the exact same system that we do, and they've had it for a number of years as well.
Okay. Now I can recall a while back reading about problems with microphones specifically with the in-car cameras, and even the department had problems with broken or disabled microphones. Is that pretty much a thing of the past now?
It's gotten a lot better. The department has really put an emphasis on accountability. The supervisors are required to ensure that the systems are working. The officers actually are required at the start of each tour. They have to test the system and record a test video to make sure everything is working. If it's not working, they report the problem, and then
Immediately,
and then,
right.
then it can be repaired.
Okay. Now, you are also involved in the procurement and distribution of tasers. Tasers are a big deal. I know that because I was a chief in one of the southeast suburbs of Chicago, and I had to totally revamp our taser system. I'm assuming you probably had to do likewise here in Chicago.
We did, and we've had taser weapons for a number of years as well, starting way back with an older model that was called the M26 at the time, and now we're using. Then we moved to the X26. Now it's the X2. So right now I think we have about close to 1,500 Taser X2s out there, and we'll have many more next year.
I had to buy the X2s out in the suburb I was at, and I was quite surprised at the cost. And even I know they shoot 2 cartridges as opposed to 1, and I was even surprised at the cost of the cartridges. It's all very expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive, but we think it's worth it. We think that in terms of reduced risk, in terms of we now have a less lethal force option that can be very useful in a first responder situation.
Now there was some kind of controversy about not enough officers being trained on the taser or not enough officers signing out the taser. How are we moving on that issue?
So that's also been addressed, and again, taser training is now built into the recruit training curriculum. In fact, now, if taser weapons are required to be checked out and used, carried during the tour of duty.
Okay. By patrolmen and, so I'm assuming supervisors
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
I can remember when I was a sergeant, only people could carry them were sergeants at the time.
Right.
It seems gotten away from that.
Exactly. When it first started, we had a much smaller number of the weapons available, and it was only
Right.
for supervisors initially.
Now, you said they've been to all these new tasers have been distributed throughout the city's, all 22 districts?
All 22 districts.
Okay. And what is the timeline for every person in the field to be able to be equipped with a taser? Or will we be able to buy that many so that every officer who wants to carry a taser has one available?
Right now, there are enough in patrol for every unit, so every two-person car to have a taser accessible to the officers to check out. Eventually, we could get to the point where they almost become assigned to an individual officer, and that's something that we are looking at. But they're available now. They're being taken out. That's monitored. So there's responding units now generally have access to an X2 weapon.
Now, do officers have a choice as to whether or not they choose to sign out a taser?
No, and that's another thing that's different now. They're required to sign it out.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's a good thing. Now, how are they paid for? I know, like I said, I know from my own experience as a former chief, it's an expensive part of the budget because you have to use live cartridges for the annual qualifications. So I know that adds up quite a bit. How is the city paying for these new tasers?
So they're actually budgeted, and so the nice thing about the body-worn camera program is that it's the same vendor. So they have what's called an officer safety plan, where the weapon is bundled into the body cam, and it's essentially a monthly lease.
Oh, okay.
So it ends up only adding $13 per month to the camera cost to also equip that officer with an X2 weapon. So instead of purchasing, you're leasing, and that includes maintenance. It includes what they call life cycle replacement. So 30 months into the 5-year contract, they replace all the equipment.
Oh.
So it really ends up, in the long run, saving agencies money.
I know we had a couple of X2s in my former agency that broke down, and we sent them back to Taser, but they were under warranty, so they got fixed. But the lease is probably a better option by you needing so many with the CPD.
Exactly, and it makes it it's really an attractive way to onboard a number of devices that you need at a lower initial cost.
Now, are there any grant monies being allotted into this program as well, or?
There are. So our initial body-worn camera rollout for the first 7 districts that are in place right now is actually funded through the Department of Justice, and then the police department just had to pay the difference to add the weapons to that plan.
Now, another hot topic giving attention paid to it is the high-profile police shootings and officers wearing body cams. Now, I understand you have a body cam here.
I do. So this is a Taser body cam.
It's made by Taser.
It's made by Taser. Yep, it's a body-worn camera. This doesn't have the housing that would attach it to allow you to clip it to your outer garment. But this is essentially the form factor.
About the size of a pager used to be many years ago.
Yeah, and like any other technology, it's become smaller, lighter, higher storage capacity, higher definition, higher resolution, better low light conditions. So they just keep improving.
Okay. Jonathan, looks like we have some callers, so let's go start taking a few calls. Hello, caller, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Go ahead, ma'am. Your question or comment, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if every UCPD officer is required to wear the body cameras.
Good
Yes,
question, yeah.
actually they are in the 7 districts where we have them, which are 14, 15, 2, 10, 4, 6, and 9. So there's 7 districts right now that are equipped with body-worn cameras.
Thank you for your call. Looks like we have another one. Go ahead, hello. Hi,
Hello?
Good evening, welcome to Noble TV. Hello, your question or comment, please.
My comment is, question. With all the new technology that's being added to the police department, are there any other forms of technology that the department is looking to add?
Okay.
We're always looking at new technology. One thing that you probably saw the mayor announce is expanding ShotSpotter, which we've had in 2 small parts of 2 police districts, one south and one west, since 2012, but we're going to be expanding to the entire district boundaries for the 7th and 11th district, and we think that technology has potential.
Thank you. Thank you for calling, caller. Let's talk about how important is the tool is, the body-worn camera. Is it an essential part of policing today? Will we ever get to a point where we don't need it? Because I know that some smaller agencies actually have stopped carrying the body-worn camera. They said they couldn't afford the data costs, and they had to just discontinue it.
I actually talked to a chief in a small town in, I think it was central Illinois, that actually had to stop the program because they hadn't anticipated all the related things that have to happen to keep up with things like Freedom of Information Act
Sure.
requests. I think in large departments like Chicago, like LA, like New York, I think it's something that's going to expand. We are already going to be expanding to 7 additional districts next year, and then the remaining 8 districts by 2018. And we've anticipated all those additional activities that have to be accounted for. So I think eventually they're going to become ubiquitous. I think you're going to see them on officers pretty much everywhere.
Now, there are a lot of benefits to wearing body cameras, right?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I've read, at least out in Western California, where the trend started first, complaints dropped significantly against officers once the body camera programs became enabled.
Exactly, yeah, and there have been a number of studies since that. That was the Rialto study, and there have been many others that have shown pretty consistently that, as you said, complaints against officers go down, use of force can go down, even the way a citizen might act towards the police officer, it just becomes more respectful on both sides. So it really can have a lot of advantages. It helps improve officer safety, we believe. Mm-hmm. Of course, it lends itself to transparency. So we think it's a tool that's going to help build and improve public trust.
But it has not been a smooth transition everywhere. Now, I know in one Oklahoma City, I think it was Oklahoma City, the department rolled out a body camera program, and they had to stop it right away because the union took the department to court and went to arbitration, and the arbitrator ruled in favor of the union. They said, hey, you're going to have to negotiate this. You just can't roll out a body camera program without talking to us, having some discussion with us as to what the parameters are.
Yeah, and that's true. And one thing that we did here is we made sure that we included the unions, all the unions, not just the FOP,
Sure.
but the supervisors.
Sergeants,
union,
lieutenants, captains.
And we've met with them several times, and they've had direct input into the program.
So overall, it's a positive. I think we can clearly say.
Yes.
Now, what are your findings so far from the body cams that have been worn by the officers in those pilot districts so far? What are your findings on the video so far?
So it's really too early to say. Under the grant, and it's actually one of the requirements of the grant, University of Illinois here in Chicago is evaluating, and they've just begun collecting data and starting that evaluation. They'll be surveying officers, and probably more importantly, or equally importantly, they'll be surveying the public as well, because a huge piece of this is community input. We actually have a body-worn camera committee that has a community representative who's on the committee. So there's a strong community component to this as well.
Who exactly sits on that committee, though? You say you have one community person. Who else sits on that committee?
We have a community person. And then we have representatives from in the police department. We have pretty much every bureau in the department, from training to patrol to technology, is represented on that committee.
How many people on that committee?
There's, I want to say, 8 people.
Oh, okay. Now, how are the beat officers responding to wearing a body cam so far?
So one thing, as you know from your long distinguished career in law enforcement, is the 2 things police officers hate are
change
and
technology.
Yeah, so it's like any other new thing. It's especially in a large organization like ours, anything new that you do is it's going to take a while for the officers to buy into it. But I really think this program is going to get the officer support, because studies also show that it makes the officer safer.
Sure.
So it's going to be something that I think once they see that it's going to be a benefit to them and to the public, it's going to be something that they're going to really support. And they're using it. I mean, they're using the cameras. We monitor the usage. We review video. I mean, it is being used. You've seen video that's been shared on various public portals as well.
I can remember one incident in particular where a woman had accused an officer of improperly touching her, but she had been on camera from the moment he pulled her over for a DUI. And luckily he had the camera on, because it verified that he had not, in fact, been inappropriate with her in any way.
And what a lot of studies show is that 98+% of the time, it's going to back up the officer's version of the events.
Most definitely.
Not to say always, of course not, but a majority of the time.
Looks like we got some more callers, Deputy Chief, so I'm going to take one more. Hi, good evening, welcome to Noble TV.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to ask Deputy Chief Lewin if whether or not when the dash cam videos are in, or not the dash cam, the body cam videos, cameras, I'm sorry, are with all officers, will there be a time when the public will be able to view some of those videos regarding any type of cases against Chicago police officers?
That's a great question, and right now, as you probably know, IPRA, the Independent Police Review Authority, actually has a public portal where they are releasing body-worn camera video, in-car camera video, surveillance video, 911 audio, police reports on the public portal when there's when there are certain police-involved incidents, such as police-involved shootings, and that's happening right now. So the answer is yes.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you for your question. Now, Deputy Chief, can we expect improved relations and greater trust building as a result of these body cameras being worn within the communities we serve now?
I think so, and that's one of the hopes of the department, and that's one of the things that other departments have experienced when they've implemented body-worn camera programs, is that it really can be used to build trust.
Okay, excellent. Now, let's talk about ShotSpotter. That seems to be what we're focusing on with the latest cutting-edge technology with Chicago Police Department. Tell our viewers about ShotSpotter.
So ShotSpotter uses audio sensors to detect gunshot events. So it actually can very, very accurately detect, identify gunshot events, and it can very accurately determine location where the gunshot originated from to within 30 yards or better of the event. So what we found, and I did an analysis of some of the ShotSpotter data from when we implemented the system back in 2012, comparing that to 911 data, looking at things like shots fired calls when a citizen calls 911. So what we find is that ShotSpotter gives us identification of gunshot events an average of 5 minutes faster than the first call to 911. So we're getting faster alerting, more accurate alerting, and a complete picture, because although the public does call 911 80% of the time when they hear gunshot events, 20% of the time they don't. ShotSpotter is going to give us the complete picture, and now in those two districts, we think it's going to have a real impact.
And sometimes, even when people hear shots fired, they don't necessarily know where the shots are coming from.
Exactly. Sometimes even when the police hear it, we hear loud reports, we don't know the exact location. Right. ShotSpotter can take us to that exact location. So ShotSpotter will be coupled not only with the gunshot detection, but also with surveillance cameras that are already in those two districts, and more that have been added that are already online. And more importantly, it's going to put this information, this technology, directly in the hands of the officers, literally on a smartphone that officers can carry with them, and on their in-car computers. So they don't have to wait for the dispatcher to come on the radio.
It'll pop right up on their screen.
It'll pop right up on a map. They can bring up video. They can go directly to that gunshot event.
Okay, excellent. That's great. Now let's talk about pod cameras, because this is all going to be interconnected. You've got ShotSpotter, which is pinpointing the sound of loud reports, and you have pod cameras, which the officers can zoom in on, or hopefully have access to, that can see people running away or people fleeing in cars or whatever they're doing out there.
Yes.
You've got a lot of pod cameras out there.
We do.
And they've improved over the years, too.
They have, like any other technology. So the pod program also started way back in 2003. And you probably remember seeing them, this big boxy.
Yes, I remember them.
Had a Chicago Police logo, flashing lights.
Flashing blue lights,
Yep.
yes.
Now what we found is, at first, that's what the communities wanted. They wanted the markings and the flashing lights. Now, many people, and I live in a neighborhood that has cameras as well, we don't put any more flashing lights out there. They're much more subdued. Yes. They're smaller. We're not trying to stigmatize neighborhoods with flashing blue lights everywhere. This is a very low-profile design, but as you said, the cameras are going to be integrated into this whole platform. Chicago, I believe, is going to have the best integration platform of its kind in the country. So it's going to provide real-time alerting when there's a gunshot event, and it's going to let the officer immediately dial up any nearby cameras and see what just happened in the area where the shot was fired. So the hope is that we'll be able to actually see. Most shots fired, it involves a vehicle. You'd be able to maybe see the vehicle, see what just happened, identify cars, notify field units, have improved situational awareness, and have this all tied together.
That's excellent. Now, I do want to point out to our viewers that right now ShotSpotter is located in the two most violent districts in the city right
Yes.
now, Inglewood and the Fillmore district, 7th
Yes.
district and 11th district. But it is going to spread around, and it is spreading around, correct?
It is, it is. So those two districts are really the most important places to concentrate this technology, and that's why we picked those two, the superintendent picked those two districts.
Okay. Now, another cutting-edge technology thing we want to hit on is Operation Virtual Shield. What can you tell us about that?
So that Operational Virtual Shield, OVS, is the camera platform, and this started many years ago. Chicago has access to more cameras for police, for fire, first responders, the 911 center, than any other city in the U.S. So there's about 29,000 cameras that can be accessed in that platform in every neighborhood, every community of the city. Chicago, one thing that we found is when the program first started, the thought was we'll put a camera in place and then maybe we'll move them around. We can't move them.
No.
Once it's there's outcry from the communities that where's my camera?
They want them
They
there.
want them there. They've really embraced the program. The cameras have almost become part of community policing. They've become part of the community.
Well, let's face it, cameras have solved a lot of crimes when no one was around to bear witness to what had occurred.
They have, and one thing we're trying to do, because we know they're not perfect, and we know there's 29,000 cameras, but there are not 29,000 people watching those cameras.
Sure.
We need to add some analytics, we need to add some capabilities to that technology, not to do facial recognition. We're not doing that. That's, we're gonna be very, very respectful of people's privacy, but if there's a gunshot event, we need to know that, and we need to watch that right away.
Right. Now, what other technology is being proposed for implementation in the future here at the CPD?
So one big thing is called FirstNet, which you may have heard of. This is a public safety only communications network. So right now, our mobile computers, our mobile phones, they're using Verizon, they're using AT&T, they're using commercial networks.
Right.
This will be a public safety only, dedicated, high-speed broadband communications
okay.
network that will let us send things like real-time video out to the field in a much more
Secure.
effective, secure, fast way.
Okay.
That's one big thing. Chicago is very excited about that. Mapping, predictive policing, you've heard about. So the ability to try to identify areas at a very granular level. So not just an entire district or a beat, but down to a block, for example. Where do we think the next crime might occur?
Now, that's something I want to hit on, predictive policing. Please explain that to our viewers, because I have a feeling a lot of our viewers don't even know what exactly you're talking about. So let's break it down to them.
So what it really is it's just using a computer to go through a lot of information that we already have and that we've had forever. So all it's using is arrest information. It's not using anything sensitive. It's not using gender. It's not using race. It's not using ethnicity. It's not even using geography. Try to go through all this information and try to tell us who the system thinks is most at risk to be shot or to be a shooter in the future.
Or retaliation against something in the future.
Exactly. So it's building in all those things that it's information that if this was a small town and you and I were the police department and there were maybe 100 people that lived in that town, we could sit at this table and we would know, okay, Joe Smith might be the person that we think might be
Okay.
most at risk to get in trouble. There's just too much information here for you and I to sit here and do that. So
Right.
this computer just does it more quickly.
And whittles it down to small portions that we can digest you can digest quickly and act upon, hopefully.
Exactly, and it's about saving lives. I mean,
Sure.
that's all this technology, all these things are tools. No one thing here is the answer. We need the public support, we need to build trust, as you said. We need to develop ways that people feel safe sharing information with the police department so that we can work together to solve crime.
Now, let me ask you this. We talk about citizen police academies and open houses at the training division. When the public comes in there to look at what officers are doing or what recruits are doing, do you have them take a look at what you're doing with technology too? Do you show off a lot of the tools?
Absolutely, and we have the Citizens Academy where we do. My group, either myself or one of my staff, actually does a presentation on everything we just talked about. And the people that are in the classes, I strongly encourage people to go through it if you're interested, and you can find out more through your district community policing office. There's a lot of excitement. Because as you said, a lot of people, they hear about ShotSpotter, but they don't know exactly what it does until they start asking the questions and seeing it, and then it's really something that I think we get a lot of support for that way.
Now, I understand the mayor is buying a lot of new vehicles for the police department.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you'll be wiring all this new technology into it.
Yeah, the cars are essentially like a mobile office for the
Sure.
officer. So They're equipped with in-car cameras, they're equipped with mobile computers, they're equipped with some with license plate readers, so they're looking for stolen cars. That information is coming in real time to the officer.
Now, what does that cost? I mean, to take these vehicles and then rewire them to outfit them with all this latest cutting edge technology. That must add quite a bit to the cost of each vehicle.
It does. So the good news is the prices are coming down, and we're looking at things like a less expensive way of equipping the cars with cameras, a less expensive way of, instead of buying a laptop, maybe getting a tablet. So the prices are coming down, but technology is not cheap.
No, it's not. Definitely not. Looks like we have a caller, so let's take it. Hi, caller. Good evening.
Hello?
Hi, good evening.
Yes, hi. I was wondering, since the body cameras have been in place, have there been less complaints against the police?
So we looked at some of that data for the very early into the program, and just anecdotally, this was just us looking at the data. We believe that it did, that the complaints did decrease. But we're going to wait for the academic partner, University of Illinois, to actually do a formal study that will be a rigorous academic study. My belief, my hope, is that yes, the complaints will go down, use of force will go down. To me, there's no reason to believe that our experience will be different than other major cities that have implemented the program.
Thank you for your call. Now, as far as the cars are concerned, what kind of maintenance are we looking at? I know the vehicle maintenance is one thing, but maintaining all that technology has got to be another thing.
It is, and one nice thing about the body cams and the X2 weapons that we're getting now is that they're under a lease. So everything's covered. There's full warranty, and then they replace the equipment 30 months into the lease with new equipment.
But what about the cams, the body cams? They also get replaced?
The same thing, yep.
And also the laptop computers in the
So
car.
right now the laptops are a purchase, and it actually goes to some funding sources that we use can't be used for a lease. And it's just the nature of the funding source doesn't allow it. Right now those are a purchase, and we are replacing, so a majority of the computers are newer. They're Panasonic Toughbook CF31s, which is their latest model. The older ones, which are CF30s, are all being replaced and will be replaced by the summer through actually it was surprising, but through a Illinois Department of Transportation grant.
Oh, okay.
The reason IDOT is funding that is because we're rolling out electronic crash reporting. IDOT wants that data faster,
Sure.
so they're paying to upgrade our technology so that we can give it to them faster. But we'll take whatever funding source we can find, grant funding, corporate funding, asset forfeiture, narcotic seizure, any foundations, anybody who wants to help us, we'll look into it.
Oh, great. Well, Jonathan, it's been a pleasure having you here. I want to remind our viewers that you can always watch us at cantv.org. Noble is committed, is conscious of law enforcement while being committed to justice and action. Viewers, our time is running out, so I want to thank you, Deputy Chief Lewin, for coming out today.
Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure and very informative having you here. And thanks to our viewers and callers for joining us. And to our audience, the best way to stay in touch with Noble is by going to our website, noblechicago.org, or like us on Facebook or Twitter. For Noble TV, this is John Franklin. Thanks for watching.